All right, welcome to Me First Wellness Professional Counseling. This is my second video, follow up to the last one. This one is on emotions, and I'm going to try to do this. I want to share a PowerPoint with you. I'm not really sure. It's not quite the way I wanted it to do. I wanted to have me on one side and PowerPoint on the other, but I couldn't quite figure out how to get that done. But anyway, here it is. So our emotions. Let's try to share this with you here. Share. All right. So cultivating emotional balance and understanding emotional messages. So there are 7 universal emotions that researcher Paul Ekman identified in his studies: joy, surprise, contempt, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. So what those universal emotions are they are a facial micro expressions that can be seen regardless of the culture that you are observing, right? So they transcend cultural location, and all human beings express facially these 7 universal emotions. And they're only there for a brief second, right? Maybe a microsecond, right? So these micro expressions are picked up on, and this is where we get our cues from someone else that they are happy, or that they are afraid, or that they're angry, or that they're disgusted, or whatever, sad, or whatever the case might be. So these are the universal emotions that Ekman identified that are universal. Now, there are emotion families, and 7 emotion families, that all have common or related triggers. Now, in a Cultivating Emotional Balance teacher training in 2000 with Alan Wallace by Eve Ekman, Paul Ekman's daughter, contributed to a workshop with teachers that looked at the role that emotions play and how they get us into trouble. So I want to spend a little bit of time on this. So each family has a certain theme and a variation on that theme related to our ancestral genetic history. So for example, anger has a genetic component. Right? So back in our history, getting angry allowed one to fight or to remove obstacles. Right? Fear, for example, helped you to run away and escape a threat. Right? So the flight reflex. So these are ancestral genetic components that are within us. Right? Disgust gets rid of something poisonous or harmful, right? Contempt asserts superiority. Surprise, focusing attention to identify something, right? The fact that we are surprised alerts us to the fact that something needs our attention, right? If we're sad, it reassures us. It elicits a connection and caring from others when they see our sadness. It creates connection with others in the face of loss. Just like enjoyment. Enjoyment creates a deep connection and cooperation with others. If everyone's enjoying themselves, they want to work together. They want to keep working together, to cooperate, to forge this deep connection. It's like when you're in love, you experience joy just by looking at the other person. You get joy. You feel good. It creates this deep connection to the other, right? And hopefully, they experience the same joy when they look back at us. Right? So, because these emotions have a genetic component, right, that served a purpose. Now, we no longer, for the most part, live in some of those times or some of those situations where this is a necessity. The lion isn't coming into the jungle, for the most part, in North America at least, coming to eat us, and we don't need that fear to run away and escape, right? Nonetheless, what this shows is that the emotions that we experience, one, have a genetic ancestral history, but that they serve a function, that they have a purpose. And every one of these emotions that we could look at does serve a function, right? So what I really want to get at today is, are these emotions that we're having positive emotions? Are they negative emotions? No. The emotions are constructive or destructive. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when the emotions help us, they are constructive. They help us to build things. When they are destructive, they break us down. They hurt others. They hurt ourselves. So I want you to think of emotions rather as constructive or destructive rather than as positive or negative. And in fact, all emotions are messages. Let's take a look at this. So, here's the emotional balance teacher training with Eve Ekman. Let's pause for a minute. Let's go back to this. How emotions get us into trouble, right? So, when we feel and show the right emotion, but with the wrong intensity, such as overreacting, or for inappropriate duration, our emotions get us into trouble. What do I mean by this? We feel and show the right emotion. So let's say someone makes me angry. I don't really like that, but I'm angry at someone, right? Nobody makes me feel anything, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm angry at someone. But I do it with the wrong intensity, right? So for example, so I'm walking down the street and somebody else is, walking behind me, and they come around and they sort of cut me off, right? They walk in front of me and I have to stop for them. Maybe I'm angry at that, right? But I start yelling at them and shouting, and I'm running down the street chasing after them. I'm overreacting, right? That would be showing the right emotion, but with the wrong intensity, right? And in fact, I go home, and for the next week, I'm completely angry. I'm bursting at everybody, yelling, shouting, screaming, for the inappropriate duration, right? I'm holding on to that anger longer than I should, right? Longer than is appropriate, right? Emotions get us into trouble. Another way emotions get us into trouble, we feel the appropriate emotion, but we express it in hurtful ways. right? So yes, I might feel angry that my partner came home when later than I expected them to come home. So rather than expressing that anger, I act in a passive aggressive way and I throw their plate of food on the table and I storm up the stairs and I slam the door and I don't talk to them for the rest of the night. Causes problems, causes trouble. An inappropriate emotion is triggered and we feel the wrong or inappropriate, let's say, emotion. So an inappropriate emotion is triggered and we feel the inappropriate emotion. So for example, something excites me. I'm really enjoying myself, but instead, and that would trigger joy. But instead, let's say I'm enjoying myself and it triggers me to be sad, to be depressed, right? When we get that emotion, inappropriate emotion that's triggered, we feel the inappropriate emotion, right? I feel sad when should be having a good time, right? It should be joyous. It's something I enjoy, but for some reason, I'm experiencing an inappropriate emotion. And I'm feeling that inappropriate emotion. That also gets us into trouble. Right? Another way that emotions get us into trouble, we are unaware of our emotional experience and the way we express it. Right? I might not be aware of my anger. Right? I might just think that, well, this is just a normal reaction. Everybody else reacts this way. I'm not overreacting. I'm not excessively carrying on with this anger. I might not honestly be aware of it, right? Now, to everybody else, clearly, yeah, I'm way out on the anger scale here. But if that happens, we're going to get into trouble. Now, this isn't to say that you don't have cause or reason for that emotion of anger. Just that we're not aware of our experience. We're not even aware that we're angry, right? Or the way that we express it, right? Maybe we don't know that we're reacting in passive aggressive ways, right? We don't realize that we're shouting and screaming and carrying on. In my family, we're loud talkers, right? So whoever talks the loudest wins. Now that might seem, oh, this guy really is angry, he's shouting, but in fact, just a loud talker, very expressive, very emotive. Right? But if your experience is more subdued and more quiet, more passive, more reflective, you may not even experience, or you may not be aware that you're expressing it in passive ways. Just like I might not be aware that I'm expressing it in active ways. Nearly all emotions can be expressed in a constructive, so a helpful way, or a destructive, an unhelpful way. So these are just some of the ways emotions get us into trouble. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We can come back to that, or well, it might be cause for another video, right? But I want to talk about how every emotion tells us a message. So you can give something a constructive meaning, or you can give something a disempowering meaning or a destructive meaning. Right? People do not create meaning for us. They do not give us feelings, right? I want to say, oh, this person's making me angry. Well, they're not really making me angry, right? I'm allowing myself to be angry in response to something I don't like about their behavior. Truth, they may contribute to our behavior, or sorry, to our state, right? How we feel. But really, it's an expression of pain, the emotion, right? Especially if you're angry, right? It's a feeling of loss, that you've lost something, right? And so what you do is you give it the meaning of a loss. But as we know from the law of conservation of energy, right, matter is neither created nor destroyed, so it only changes form. So we can't really create an emotion. We can't destroy an emotion. All we can really do is change its form, and by that we're changing the meaning that we give to that emotion. Right? If water boils, it becomes steam, but it's still water. You can transform things, but you can never lose anything. It's still there, right? So even though I might feel like I'm not being respected, that I've lost respect, right? I can't lose what I never had. Respect is something that's inside you. So as I said, you can give something a constructive or a destructive meaning. You give yourself constructive or destructive messages, right? No one makes you feel anything. It's just the meaning that you give to the event, right? So can the event be empowering, or are you going to make the event disempower you, right? Are you going to make it constructive, or are you going to make it destructive? Is it something that I can learn from instead of something that happened to me? So what are the messages that these emotions are telling us? Well, these emotions, not only do they suggest a mood and they have clear traits, but then they also relate to some specific psychological disorders. Right? As the teacher training with Eve Ekman showed, these 7 universal emotions: fear, anger, joy, happiness, contempt, disgust, sadness, surprise, they have clear moods, right? Anger, for example, a person might be irritable, right? Have an irritable mood. General traits, they appear very hostile, right? This can be transformed into very destructive meanings where that irritability and that hostility turn into chronic impulsive behaviors, right? Into a disorder. Right? Fear, for example, right? The mood is, you're apprehensive, right? Maybe a characteristic trait of this would be being shy. What disorders do we tend to find with people that are or who give more weight to fear? Well, this is where we see the sort of panic disorders, anxiety disorders, right? The same thing is true for sadness, right? Person has, they feel blue. They're melancholic, right? What kind of disorders do we seem to find? We seem to find people that are depressed, right? Sadness leads to depression, right? When taken to extreme. Excitement, right? Excitement sounds great, right? We're optimistic, we're excited, right? But that optimism becomes problematic when that optimism turns into risk taking, right? And that risk taking often can lead to disorders like mania. So these emotions tell us a lot. Every emotion is a message to change. We change our perception, or we change our actions, right? So changing your focus or change what you're doing, right? There are 4 ways to deal with emotions. Avoidance is the first way. We just avoid any feeling, suppress it. Right? I don't want to feel it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't see it. I'm just going to avoid it. Second, endurance, right? Tough it out, right? You're feeling anger, upset, sadness, right? Just tough it out, right? Do the best you can. It'll go away. Just get up every day. Force yourself to do it. Tough it out. Be a man, right? Because men don't want to deal with their emotions. So what do? They avoid it and they try to tough it out. We compete. We compete about who feels worse. Right? I remember my aunt and uncle having a huge competition about, oh, do you have any aspirin? I have a headache. Oh, you don't know what a headache is like. Oh, you don't know a headache. Oh, I have headaches. Like, right? So we compete about who feels worse, right? Rather than dealing with our emotions. Sharing. Oh, we can give it to others. Sharing our pain together. Oh, this is love. This is great. I love this one. Yeah, this is wonderful, right? Everybody probably knows someone who, whenever they, call you on the telephone, right? If people still do this today, I guess, they video message you, they text you, you meet them on the street, right? Pre-coronavirus times, you meet them on the street, and you kind of want to run the other way because they're always trying to share their pain with you. They want you to feel as crappy and horrible as they feel. And sharing it with you makes them feel better, I guess. Right? But now I feel worse. Right? So dealing with emotions through avoidance, through endurance, competing, sharing, right? These are kind of the typical ways that we deal with emotions. Not exactly the most constructive ways of dealing with emotion. Right? So what are emotions telling us? What are our emotions telling us? Fear. Let's look at the 7 emotions, right? So fear. When we have fear, it tells us to prepare ourselves for change. Prepare yourself for change. Something is coming. Right? Just like when the lion comes into the out of the jungle and into the village, right? We feel fear. Something is about to change, and we need to be prepared for it. Right? Hurt. Hurt. Your expectation is not being met. Right? So when you have feelings of hurt, it's telling you that something that you expected isn't being met. What do you need to do? You need to focus on what you do want to do now. Focus on what you do want now. Right? So if you're having feelings of hurt, focus on what it is that you do want, right? Change that destructive meaning that we've given to the emotion and make it into something constructive. Anger. Your rules of life have been violated by someone else, or by yourself. Frustration. Messages that what you are doing is not working. This is a great one. I experience this a lot. Right? Well, maybe a lot, but I mean often. Right? I've had this experience where I am trying to repair something in the house, and it's taking me longer than I expected it to have to do. It's not going right. I don't have the right parts. I can't even get the part off that I want to get off. I am all of a sudden feeling just so, and I don't even know what it is until I stop thinking about it. I realize, oh, this is frustration. Right? What do? Push through it? Avoid it? Right? Share it with somebody else, maybe. Call up my friends, bitch and complain about how horrible this repair is that I have to do, right? So that they feel worse, because then I'll feel better. Generally not, but when we feel this frustration, this is really a message that what we're doing isn't working. So the best thing to do is stop it. It's time to take a break. Do something else. Come back to it later. Doesn't mean I'm avoiding the emotion. I'm just avoiding the work that caused me the frustration in the first place, right? Maybe this is a bigger job than I really am able and capable of doing. I got to call somebody to help me. Again, this is one of those male things where we think we should be able to do it all by ourselves, right? It's a weakness to get somebody to help you. Well, enjoy your frustration. Disappointment. Yeah. You expect something to happen, but it didn't happen. Immediately, what you want to do is focus on what you want now. Guilt. You have violated one of your own standards and need to do something immediately to be certain that you won't do this again. I remember when I was younger, right, I had a lot of guilt, right? Well, that came from, get into this anyways, a lot of guilt, right? Over the years, as I, went through university training, a lot of that guilt disappeared. Having a understanding of my own standards, trying to live my life in a way where I don't violate my own standards. My standards may not be the same as someone else's standards, but they're my standards. So if you're experiencing guilt, the message that you're getting is that you have violated your own standards. So if you want to get rid of that guilt, you need to do something immediately to make sure that you won't do this again. Let go of that guilt. A lot of us experience guilt through religious education, for example. Letting go of those ideas. Becoming clear of your own standards rids the guilt, at least in my experience. Again, this fear, guilt, and shame is a separate video. Usually I teach that in parent education training programs about the things that you don't want to do not want to do to your children, right? You do not want to teach them fear, shame, or guilt, unless you want to totally destroy their lives. But that's another video. Feelings of overwhelmedness, helplessness, depression, right? What you want to do is sit down and prioritize what is important right now, right? Make a list of what you can do now, and then go and get the first thing done, right? I mean, you don't have to do everything on the list. Do the first thing, right? Stop trying to do everything. And a lot of this leads into that frustration that you're trying to do everything by yourself, trying to do it alone, right? Pick one thing that you can do well and go and do it. Lonely. What's the message that we get when we're lonely? You need to connect with people, right? So many of us right now during coronavirus and everybody's isolating, right? We're feeling alone. Why? Because we need to connect with people, right? So many more people are connecting through video platforms, phoning people, right? Sending a text, sending a message, sending an email, checking on people. How are you doing? Where are you at? What's been going on with you, right? We're wanting to connect to people, right? Now, unfortunately, we can't physically connect to a lot of people that because we're isolating. Right? So we have to find alternative ways of doing this, right? So I refer you back to my last video on dealing with coronavirus and the emotions that come up with that. Feeling inadequate, right? Now, I know you've never felt this way, I'm sure. But when we have feelings of inadequacy, it's really a message telling us that we need to change our standards for ourselves or for others, or get committed to mastering this area of your life, right? Because if you're feeling inadequate, you need to go master that, right? If you want to feel competent, you need to master that area of weakness. You need to change your standards for yourself, for others. Right? I do a lot of dance, right? Dance kizomba, urban kiss, salsa, bachata. When I dance, right? If it's important to me, right? I'm going to work hard. I'm going to practice. I'm going to review. I'm going to take classes. I'm going to get committed to mastering this area of dance to meet my standards, right, that I have for myself. This makes me feel like I'm a competent dancer, that I'm an adequate dancer. Am I the best dancer in the world? No, but I don't need to be. Right? It's not a standard that I have for myself. Right? I have a certain standard of, qualities and things that I want to have in my dancing, but that's what I work on. I get committed to mastering that area in my life. Otherwise, you have to either change your standards, right? You can't have both. Confusion, right? Celebrate this. Tony Robbins, right, is sorry, go back to this. Right, Tony Robbins is key, or is a very important figure that values confusion. Right, confusion is a signal that we're finding new solutions to a problem. Right, if I'm confused, it's my brain thinking, there's maybe another way to think about this. Something I haven't thought of before. Right, so celebrate your confusion. It's good to be confused. Right? It means that you're now open to finding a new solution to a problem. Right? When I used to teach adult education, right? I love it when I'd ask students a question, and this look of total confusion on their face with a math concept. So, geez, you look confused. Right? Yeah, I am confused. That's great. I love it. That's wonderful. Excellent. because now you're open to learning how to solve this mathematical problem. And it'll come. You want to feel adequate? Get committed to mastering that area in your life. Celebrate your confusion. Okay. Learn from those emotions and utilize them. Okay. So, how do I do this? Identify the emotion. What am I really feeling? Am I angry? Am I hurt? Do I feel like I lost something? Acknowledge and appreciate the message that the emotion is giving me. Get curious. There's that curiosity again. Get curious about what the message is. What is the real message that this emotion is trying to give me? Get yourself reassured. Take a breath. Calm yourself down, right? Reassure yourself that you can deal with this emotion, right? Think about a time in the past where you successfully dealt with an emotion. Were there times in your life where you were sad? Were there times in your life when you were angry, where you were disappointed, where you were afraid? Of course there were. But you dealt with them. You got over them, right? Think about how you did that, how you successfully dealt with that emotion, right? How did you get rid of your guilt? Get certain that you can handle anything like this in the future by rehearsing yourself dealing with it, right? See yourself overcoming that obstacle, right? Take action and change your life. So I want to pay tribute to Anthony Robbins for inspiring these ideas from listening to some of his webcasts, YouTube videos, podcasts. These are things that I'm taking from Tony Robbins in terms of learning from those emotions and utilizing them. Right? So nothing really new here on my part. So one of the things that I want to inspire you is the 7-day mental challenge. So before we look at that, let me just sort of stress this again, right? The emotions that we're having are not positive or negative, right? It's the meaning that we put on those emotions, right? So we can either allow those emotions to have a constructive meaning or to have a destructive meaning, right? But it's entirely ourselves that put the meaning onto those emotions. Now, what I'm trying to show you here or share with you is that those emotions have an ancient genetic history, right? They're there for a reason. They were there for a reason to protect us. They serve a function, a very constructive, purposeful, life surviving function, right? In modern times, we still have those emotions, and they do serve a constructive life surviving purpose. We just need to explore and examine what those messages are. So the messages that I talked about, going through those different emotions, right? When you understand what messages emotions are giving to us, the emotions then are a tool that we can use to construct positive meaning in our lives. Right? So, little test, little homework for you, right, if you will, is the 7-day mental challenge. Right, this comes from the book, The 7-Day Mental Challenge. No surprise, right? So here it is. This is what I want you to do. I want you to be noticing what you do have rather than what you do not have. Notice what's great about a situation rather than what's not great. Focus on solutions instead of problems. Right? Now, if you can do this, this is going to really help you to prepare to start to tune into the messages that our emotions are giving us, and being aware that we're having an emotion, right? So we're not avoiding, right? We're not passing that emotion on to somebody else, right? We're responding in a constructive way to the messages that our emotions are giving us. So notice what you have rather than what you do not have. Notice what's great about a situation rather than what's not great. Focus on solutions instead of problems. Now, this is like by no means a simple feat, all right? So I'm asking you to try this just for 7 days, right? 1 week, that's it, right? You go back to seeing the negative and the problems and the horribleness, whatever, of life afterwards. But for 7 days, all right, instead of judging yourself or others, I want you to decide right now to become curious instead of judgmental, right? Judge less, perceive more, right? Get in the habit, for at least for those 7 days, of noticing the positive things, the constructive things, right? Focusing on solutions. Judging less, being more perceptive, right? So as well, I want you for the next 7 days, develop a habit of giving compliments, right? Find something to appreciate even in tough times, right? We need to appreciate where we are right now, right? So I might not be where I want to end up, but I'm taking a step towards that future. Right? And appreciate where we are right now. Right? So 7-day mental challenge. This is what I want to inspire you to try, is the 7-day mental challenge. So for 1 week, this is what you try. Let me know in the comment section how things are going for you. What effect did this have on you? Did you like the 7-day mental challenge? I don't know. So, a couple of points. Emotions. Emotions are key. Understanding them leads to empathy, right? If we understand emotions and what those emotions mean, we can understand others better, right? We can understand ourselves better. So empathy for self leads to empathy for others, right? If we can understand the emotions that we're having, it will help us to be more empathetic with others when they experience those emotions. Right? Empathy for self leads to empathy for others. Empathy for others leads to truly caring for ourselves and others. This is something important. Right? Your well-being, your balance, then, is tied to all those around you. Right? So as we understand our emotions, we become more empathetic. We develop our empathy skills, and our empathy for ourselves leads us to empathy for others. And that empathy for others allows us to truly care for ourselves and for others, which means that our well-being, our balance, is interconnected to all of those people that are around us, right? We're not isolated. We're not a man on an island, right? One man on an island, one woman on an island, right? We are tied, interconnected to all, and not just to human beings, right? If you want to, carry this on, we are interconnected to all living forms on the earth, right? The trees give us oxygen, right? We use the oxygen. We release carbon dioxide. The trees use the carbon dioxide, right? The cycle of life, right? All of those things that show our interconnectedness to all living things. The air, the trees, the rocks, the water. Right? The key is this is the key then to mental and emotional balance. If you want to achieve mental stability, mental balance, right? Emotional balance. You don't want your emotions to be, damped up here, right? You want to, have some, it's okay to have destructive emotions, at the appropriate time or the appropriate duration, right? But you want to achieve balance of emotions, right? And the key to this is understanding emotions, as it leads us to empathy towards ourselves and towards others, and to our interconnection with all those around us. So in summary, right, what you focus on, you feel. When you take control of your focus, you take control of your life. What does something, the emotion I'm feeling, mean? The meaning that we give to things has control over our lives. So you need to take control of the meaning. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right? I encourage you to try the 7-day mental challenge. Practice tuning into your emotions. Go back and look at the messages that those emotions are giving us, and some of the ways to turn those meanings into constructive action rather than destructive action. Thank you very much for watching this video. Look for more videos to come. I hope you are all doing well out there, and that you find the balance that you're looking for.